During a disaster, people may be forced to evacuate their homes, often on short notice. At day's end, they will be in dire need of safe, temporary lodging and other emergency social services. Emergency lodging can be provided to evacuees by emergency social service responders and is typically achieved through the use of commercial providers. There are times, however, when circumstances dictate that alternatives may be necessary and evacuees must be accommodated in other ways. Group lodging facilities are public facilities that are not normally used for living purposes, but have been adapted to provide shelter-style accommodations, which is cots lined up in a row, for people who have been displaced from their homes as a result of an emergency or disaster. These facilities, usually local community centers, high school gymnasiums, and arenas, are designated by the local ESS team in cooperation with the local authority. Depending on the type and scope of the emergency, there are various services that may be available at a group lodging facility. These services vary from sleeping space, meals, recreation, and leisure activities to first aid and many more. Managing a group lodging facility is a big responsibility. However, pre-planning can alleviate some of the anxiety for those in charge. Many tasks can and should be completed well ahead of time. A survey of suitable buildings can be conducted. Letters of agreement for use of the buildings can be signed. Group lodging functions and staffing requirements can be determined. Individuals to manage and work in the group lodging facilities can be recruited and trained. Floor plans can be drafted, and necessary equipment and supplies can be identified and secured. A group lodging facility may be activated during a large or complex event or at an ESS Level 3 response. Generally, there are a large number of evacuees, and the event typically involves multiple dwellings or neighborhoods. Group lodging has sometimes been referred to under many names, such as emergency shelters, evacuation centers, or disaster relief centers, so it's easy to see why it can be confused with reception centers. Shelter-style sleeping accommodations may be provided at group lodging, but reception centers will address all other evacuee needs. They are separate entities with different functional roles. A reception center is a facility where evacuees are received, registered, and referred elsewhere, depending on their immediate personal needs. Ideally, reception center personnel refer evacuees to the group lodging facility with paperwork that confirms their registration. In BC, it's the white copy of the referral form. Evacuees then give this copy to the ESS responder at the check-in, check-out desk at the group lodging facility, which authorizes the evacuees to stay at that facility. The response structure in ESS involves activating the functions necessary to meet the immediate needs of evacuees based on the overall impact from the incident. As in all ESS responses, not every function will be filled or addressed in every emergency. For example, if evacuees arrive at the group lodging facility and there are no special needs issues, then the special needs unit in the health branch does not need to be activated. As the situation changes, the organization should also change. The group lodging structure is organized around 5 primary management functions based on the Incident Command System, or ICS: management, operations, planning, logistics, and finance. The management function, led by the group lodging manager, is responsible for the overall decision-making and smooth functioning of the group lodging facility, and includes the functions of information, liaison, and safety. The operations, planning, logistics, and finance sections are responsible for overseeing the internal functioning of their individual sections and interacting with the group lodging management and others to ensure an effective ESS response. The Emergency Social Services Director is shown as a dotted line because he/she is likely located at the local authority EOC as the ESS branch coordinator within the operations section. The title for each head of the section is Chief, such as Operations Section Chief. Each major function is referred to as a section. Each branch will have a branch coordinator, such as a Primary Services Branch Coordinator. The smallest element in these organization charts are referred to as units. When the number of units in any particular section exceeds 7, which is the maximum span of control, functional branches should be established. If more than one individual works within a unit, a supervisor may be appointed to the unit. Additional functions, units, and branches should be activated as needed and deactivated when no longer required. For those functions that are activated, separate responders in each function are not required. In other words, one individual could fulfill multiple functions at the group lodging facility. The group lodging manager, along with the management team, will determine clear actions for the first operational period, such as the services and setup required. The primary roles and responsibilities of each of these functions are described in detail in the Introduction to Group Lodging Participant Guide. It is very important that ESS responders each have a personal preparedness plan. When the ESS plan and teams have been activated, you will need to activate your own personal preparedness plan to ensure your needs such as family, pets, home, work are all addressed. Once your plan has been activated and your needs have been taken care of, you can feel confident that you can report to the group lodging facility and focus on the disaster response and the tasks at hand. During a call-out, ESS responders may be contacted by any of the following means: telephone call, email, text message, community alert network message. ESS responders may also be alerted for a standby situation, for example, a severe weather event where there may be a potential for reception center and/or group lodging response. Once you have been called out, there are a number of things you need to do before proceeding to the group lodging facility. Communicate with your family and employer and tell them the ESS plan has been activated and how you will maintain contact with them. Dress casual, wear appropriate clothes for the job and the season, such as layers when it's cold. Bring your cell phone, wall vehicle charger, and contact list. Bring your ID, vest, hat, t-shirt, jacket, name tag, and ESS manual. Take your grab-and-go bag. When you arrive on site, usually the group lodging manager will already be at the facility and the group lodging kit will have been located. Your local authority's ESS plan will have more details specific to your community and group lodging facilities. Sign in on the EMBC task registration form, confirm work assignments, and find out who you are to report to. Wear your ESS identification, your vest, which is usually provided on site, your name tag, and your local and/or provincial territorial ID card. Introduce yourself to your coworkers and set up the workstation. Buddy up with a coworker to watch out for each other's well-being. Listen for the call to the briefing and attend. Take the time to sit down and review the checklist for the function and/or functions you have been assigned to. Notify your unit supervisor of any resources requirements. Obtain equipment, supplies, and required forms. Establish and maintain a position log to list actions taken during your shift in chronological order. Taking the time to set up group lodging can help lessen or avoid problems. Furthermore, proper and timely setup will ensure that the group lodging is ready to provide services to evacuees when they arrive. Depending on many variables, including the size of the disaster and response expected, the entire facility may or may not need to be set up. The group lodging manager, along with the management team, will determine clear actions for the first operational period, such as the services and setup required. After the management team has determined the services to be provided, equipment, supplies, and a floor plan that is suitable for the response is identified. Each coordinator or supervisor is responsible for ensuring the setup of their required areas. In the pre-planning stage, the ESS team should have put together a kit for group lodging. Ideally, there would be one group lodging kit within each designated group lodging facility. In some communities, however, one mobile group lodging kit is shared between the group lodging facilities. The mobile kit may be a towable trailer located off-site at a central location such as a fire hall or a school. During an event that would require a group lodging facility opening, the group lodging manager would be responsible for making arrangements for the delivery of the kit to the group lodging facility. To review the contents of a group lodging kit, refer to your Introduction to Group Lodging Participant Guide. This is a possible setup for an ESS group lodging facility. Keep in mind that this is only an example and the actual setup will be determined by a number of variables. For this reason, it is beneficial to consider optional setups if the primary one, for whatever reason, is ineffective. The Public Health Agency of Canada set minimum standards of hygiene to provide an environment where the spread of communicable diseases is reduced to a minimum. The minimum sleeping area per person is 3.5 square meters or 10 cubic meters, or 40 square feet, 5 by 8 when possible. When reviewing allocation space for sleeping, a distance of 0.75 meters or 2.5 feet between beds, bunks, or sleeping bags should be maintained. Such spacing has been shown to considerably reduce the spread of respiratory infections. When there is pressure on the use of space, recourse may have to be head to tailing of beds. Inevitably, issues will come up with people moving cots. For example, a family of 4 wants cots closer together rather than all separated. A lot of times, area setup is pre-planned and divided into sections, meaning single men, single women, and families. For more information on the guidelines for ESS responders working in group lodging, check out the Introduction to Group Lodging Participant Guide. And one final thought. Worker care disaster response can result in working long hours and helping people of all ages to understand and manage the many reactions, feelings, and challenges triggered by these stressful circumstances. As an ESS responder, you need to look after yourself in order to be able to help others.